modern day corporatists, let's just say that, corporate capitalists, but corporatists for that matter, believe what the movie Wall Street says. Gordon Gekko, which the real guy, by the way, doesn't even believe this, but that greed is good. And if greed is good, that means that a company based on endless growth and frankly, an economy based on endless growth is good. And if that's the case, the only way to grow at a certain point is to consolidate, to buy other companies, to crush them, to eat them up. And that's how you find these gigantic companies and segue like Bank of America, where you see gigantic banks that are too big to fail. There are companies like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs, these companies that are not literal monopolies, but they function in the good boys club, you know, like they're an elitist class of their own. Now there are some small banks, but those small banks get bought out. And believe it or not, despite what Republicans might want you to believe, banks are not that well regulated. And regulation that does exist in banking, and I'll just even say in accounting, does not even scratch the surface of what needs to be done to hold certain companies accountable. On your screen here, my buddy old pal Jameer sent me this article today, and I found it interesting. It kind of coincides with what we're talking about. A Bank of America is being fined because of illegal fees and fake accounts created under consumers' names. Now, if you recall, when I was in college at least, so at least 8 years ago at this point, maybe, Wells Fargo got caught doing the same thing. This is a and actually, Jameer, I didn't pull the article. It was he sent it a little late for me. He sent another one about Amazon signing people up for Prime without them knowing it once they bought an item. They got sued for it as well. Remember, from 1932, someone fact check me on that, up until the Bill Clinton administration, there was much more stringent bank regulation. Beyond just this, but we had Glass-Steagall, which was one of the most vital. We don't talk about this anymore. A lot of people haven't talked about this since the 2016 election in the primary. Glass-Steagall, which segregated funding or funds that banks could use for investments, specifically high-risk investments, because remember, banks make money off of your money. When people want to talk, Republicans want to talk about, oh, Democrats want to spend other people's money. No, banks want to spend other people's money. That's just a fact. They would go out on these risky bets, which led to, think back, 2007, 2008, we got rid of Glass-Steagall. We allowed banks to make risky decisions. We allowed them to give loans to people that couldn't afford them, which, yeah, in the short term, maybe for those people, it was like, yeah, we could buy a house. That's great. But they were buying them at inflated rates. They were unable to make the mortgage, and the banking system collapsed. And it nearly collapsed to the point of failure. And you look at these companies like Bank of America, like Wells Fargo, and then we created Dodd-Frank under the Obama administration. And I believe it's under Dodd-Frank came Elizabeth Warren with her proposal for the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is how you get things like this, where you have, this is now a quote, Bank of America, the nation's second largest bank, has been ordered to pay more than $100 million to customers for double charging insufficient fund fees, which, by the way, insufficient fund fees, that's a paradox if I've ever heard one. You don't have money in your account, so we're going to charge you a fee. Continues, withholding reward bonuses and opening accounts without customers' knowledge or permission. Down here it says the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau announced Tuesday that an investigation found that Bank of America harmed hundreds of thousands of customers across multiple product lines over a period of several years through a series of illegal practices. Now, this is good, right? That they catch them. This is good that people get their money. They get restitution for what's happened to them. But how come no one's going to jail? How come the top of these companies? How come the people that push the tellers to do this stuff? How come the people that they manage them? They push it down. They push it down. We need to hit this number. We got to hit this number. Why do you think this stuff happens? Not an accident. Because the $150 million in penalties. Got news for you. The reason why they do this is because they make more by breaking the rules and asking for forgiveness than they do following just what a good bank would do. Like a morally good bank. Because remember, companies are driven by profit. They are maximizing profit for their shareholders. That is their sole reason to exist. The CEO and the CFO are not out and to be altruistic. They are not there to make the world a better place. As companies, they might say that, they might have initiatives. That's great. But their primary directive is to make as much cold hard cash as they possibly can. Antitrust is what we need. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is a good start. You need to reinstate Glass-Steagall, by the way. And this is why the history, knowing the history of saying, like Bill Clinton was the only president to have the surplus in the modern era. Yeah, but he also gutted regulation for banks. He passed a crime bill. Like there's a number of things. Like we have to know our history so we don't just blindly repeat things.